Go love your own enemies. Don't be loving mine. My enemies are the theocratic fascists. I don't love them. I want to destroy them.
You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
I don't think that the church, Christianity, Catholicism, any of it is pro-life. I really don't. I think that, yeah, they're at the forefront of every movement that wants to oppress women and deny women the right to control what happens to their own body. True. But what happens to if the woman survives the pregnancy, like that woman in Ireland who had a dead baby inside her and they didn't let her have an abortion? Oh my goodness. So she died? Yeah, that woman. How to stop my computer from making noises while I'm making a video. Okay, yeah, how pro-life were they toward her? But anyway, that was a hospital, I imagine a very strongly religious influenced, Christian influenced hospital that caused that woman to die. But yeah, this newest story that was in the Huffington Post, I'm sure it's elsewhere, but this is where I found the article. Mass septic tank grave containing the skeletons of 800 babies at site of Irish home for unmarried mothers. So let's see, unmarried women, they keep them at this home, deny them the right to have an abortion. Heaven forbid we don't, throw away any precious baby. We have to, so women die, in excruciating pain because they are, some of them physically, their life is in jeopardy if they continue with the pregnancy. And then when the babies are born to either women who have just died or women who are punished for getting pregnant out of wedlock, they're literally punished for it, what happens to the children after they're born? This big, life is so precious, babies are so precious, every little baby should have the right to be born. What happens to these children after they're born? How are they treated? How are they cared for? 800 babies at a mass grave. Hundreds of babies and toddlers believed to be buried in Tuam Galway, probably said that really wrong. The site lies next to a former home for single mothers and their children. The children's home was run by Bon Secours nuns, Secours, nuns between, is it the 17th century? No! What do you know? It's the 20th century, 1925 through 1961. My God, that's just a year before I was born. Children were malnourished and neglected, which caused many of the deaths. They also died of TB, pneumonia, measles, convulsions, and gastroenteritis. Relative of one missing child has filed a complaint with local police. The Gardai, Gardai. This is like recent. This is like 50 years ago, 75 to 50 years ago. The bodies of nearly 800 babies are believed to have been interred in a concrete tank beside a former home for unmarried mothers. The dead babies are thought to have been secretly buried beside a home for single mothers and their children in County Galway, Ireland, over a period of 36 years. It is suspected that 796 children were interred or on unconsecrated ground without headstones or coffins next to the home run, because they were human garbage, next to the home run by the Bon Secours, there's that word again, nuns in Tuam between 1925 and 1961. New unearthed reports show that they suffered malnutrition and neglect, which caused the deaths of many, while others died of measles, convulsions, TB, gastroenteritis, and pneumonia. The babies were usually buried in a plain shroud without a coffin on a plot that had housed a water tank attached to the workhouse that preceded the mother and child home. Workhouse, guess what? That's where the women were made to work as punishment for the crime of getting pregnant out of wedlock, the sin. Free slave labor. Nice. The site is now surrounded by a housing estate, but a missing persons report just filed to Irish police Gardaí, of course again I'm saying it wrong, means that the burial site may now be excavated. A relative of one boy who lived there, William Joseph Dolan, has made a formal complaint to the police after she failed to find his death certificate, despite records in the home stating that he had died. A source close to the investigation says no one knows the total of babies in the grave. There are 796 deaths, but they are the only ones we know of. God knows who else is in the grave. It's been lying there for years, and no one knows the full extent of or total of the bodies down there. Okay, well, I'm going to post a link to this horrible story below in my description. The point is, this is what happens when religion, it's Christianity. Oh my gosh, pregnant mothers trying to have control over their own bodies, pregnant women, oh my God, women trying to have say about what happens to them, really. Let's go back to the Bronze Age where women were just property, and they were men had the ability to control everything about women's lives, control women's lives. Okay, let's go back to then. We want to take away women's rights to control their own body and have a say whether they're going to be pregnant or not. We're going to force them to have babies, but let's just see them lining up to adopt those babies after they're born. Yeah, let's just see how many of them jump to it when it's time to adopt those babies and give those babies a home because mom doesn't want them or dad doesn't want them and mom does. That's another thing. In my instance, when I went through, I didn't want, I wanted the baby. My husband didn't want the baby. And I didn't want to force parenthood on my husband. What if that had been taken away from us? What if we had been denied that choice? Well, my marriage would have been destroyed. It was anyway. It was doomed, but it would have been a lot sooner. But, forced to have a baby that you don't want. The very idea is just appalling to me. Forcing people to be parents when they don't want to be. But if I had been forced to have this baby, oh, Diane, you didn't need to have an abortion. You could have had the baby and put it up for adoption. Really? I would have put the baby that I wanted up for adoption. Yeah, that would have happened. Sorry, I am a product of adoption. I was adopted. It's not a perfect little answer for everything. They don't. My story isn't so happy. There's a lot of unhappy people, children in foster home that never know what it's like to be loved, that carry their belongings in garbage bags from one foster home to the next their whole lives, and they never know what it's like to have a mom and dad in a loving environment, a normal, loving, nurturing environment. A lot of those kids end up in our prisons. So yeah, yay religion. Let's force women to have babies, even if it kills them. We can't let them have an abortion. It's like, oh, your life is important until you're pregnant. Now suddenly the little system of cells forming in your uterus is more valuable than you. The thing that isn't breathing or thinking or anything is just a cluster of cells that's starting to form in your uterus. That has more value than you do. And as soon as that thing comes out of you, though, well, we did our thing. Let's move on to the next poor woman and force her to have a baby that she doesn't want. Meanwhile, what happens to the baby that was just born? What happens to the mother that just was, now she's going to have to go through all the shit of either having a child she doesn't want that represents the taking away of her dignity and her rights as a human being. Really, that's what, if I was forced to have a baby I didn't want, that's what it would represent to me. It would be like, oh, here's this, it would represent a time in my life where I was rendered powerless, where I was made into breeding stock. Because that's what it is when you take away somebody's rights to decide if they want to have a child or not. You make them breeding stock. So these women were punished for getting pregnant. They were punished, forced to work. Their children, apparently forced to have babies, whether or not it killed them. And then what happened to these precious little lives when they were born? Apparently, a lot of bad shit. They were malnourished. They weren't cared for. They weren't given proper medical care. Oh, isn't that special? Let's just toss their bodies into a mass grave. Let's act like, oh, life is just so important until they're born, and then they die and we toss them in a mass grave. No tombstone, no headstone, no nothing. Just, yeah. Yay, religion. I'm sorry, but the hypocrisy, thank you, is just amazing. It's just boggles my mind. So yeah, I don't think Christianity is pro-life at all. I think Christianity, in so many ways, is pro-death. It's pro-death of people's lives. It's pro-death of women's rights. It's pro-death. And Christians who go, oh, Catholicism isn't Christianity. Yeah, right. Neither's Presbyterian or Baptist or Lutheran. Yeah, everything that isn't what you think Christianity should be isn't Christianity. Yeah, right. I know Catholics. I have some friends who are Catholics. They believe in all the important things. And all the important things, they believe Jesus is God's only son. They believe they have to accept Jesus into their heart to be saved. They do all the important things. I'm sorry, they are Christians. They might be a really freaking weird version of it compared to some Protestants' idea of what Christianity is, but they have the basic necessities to be Christians. They worship the same Jesus as Protestants do. They're Christians. So anyway, yeah. Oh no, Hitler wasn't a Christian. He was a Catholic. Christian. Catholicism is Christian. And I'm sorry, but I get so tired of Christians that try to disown other denominations because it isn't exactly like their own denomination. So anyway, I felt like having a rant this morning. That article, I saw The Quiet Atheist had put up a video last night about it, and it kind of got to me a little bit, and I wanted to make a few comments of my own. So yay, religion. You know, they come across like, oh, we're just so pious and holy and so pro-life, and all you baby killers out there who think women should have control over their own bodies and their own destinies. And what do you do when the babies are born? How many more foster kids are going to be running around with garbage bags filled with their stuff, like they themselves are just garbage, or tossed like these children were treated like garbage while they were sick and when they died? It's just disgusting. Another example of Christianity and religion in general. It's poison, it's foul, it needs to be opposed. So anyway, thanks for listening. Just felt like ranting at my camera this morning. Bye! This is just a little addition that I wanted to put at the end of this video. That it's one of those thoughts that I had after the video was over. I just got done watching Milk last night, the story of Harvey Milk. And I believe it's in that movie. Of course, I've heard it elsewhere too, where the Harvey is confronted with some guy saying, yes, but you don't reproduce. So yes, Christianity also tries to make breeding stock of men. Sex is only about producing babies. If you're not trying to produce babies and you're having sex, it's dirty. Sex is dirty. I'm sorry, it's demeaning to men too, and that's what I wanted to add to this. I should have added to that at the time I was talking about how forcing a woman to have a baby against her will is making her into breeding stock. I should have put it in there then, but I was on a rant and I wasn't thinking. But it does the same thing to men. Men, you're just studs. That's all that you're put on this earth to do, is produce babies. And if you fall in love with somebody and you can't produce babies with that match, it's wrong. I'm sorry, but that's the argument they make against homosexuality. Well, it doesn't produce babies. Because I guess that's all we are. We're just breeding stock for religion. Never mind the fact that the planet is already overpopulated with people. And we're actually pushing other species of life into extinction because there's just so many of us and we need more and more room. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't mean to show favoritism toward women, I think it's just as demeaning toward men when they tell men that, it's all about making babies. Yeah, that's all it is. Guys, that's what you're about. You're just making babies. So, anyway, now I really have to end this. Thanks for watching. Bye.